Welcome. This is 2.4, 2.5, solving literal equations and inequalities. I am forewarning you, you may have to really rewind this and watch a few times. You've been practicing how to solve these when they weren't literal, which means all letters or things that way. So it should look familiar. I suggest you justify your steps. That seems to help students. So, first thing that we always do is we isolate the x term. If you were to draw your line, circle your creepy dude, that's your first step, is addition or subtraction, property of equality. So I just do it the same way. So we go minus 5, we get negative 2x equals 6. Now we isolate the x by dividing by negative 2. Now, if you go, nothing's different there, Mrs. King, you're exactly right. I just wanted to review it. Subtraction property of equality, division property of equality. Now let me show you what we're doing today. We're going to have a literal equation, which means it's all letters. Don't get freaked out by this, you guys. We're solving for x, so circle it, draw the line, and isolate this term first. That's a plus b, so subtract b. That would wipe out. We'd have ax equals c minus b. You can't make it an answer because you don't know what those are. Now, your next step here is to get the x alone. It's being multiplied, so we divide. And we say our answer is x equals c minus b over a. You do need to qualify that a can't equal 0. If it has not already been qualified. Okay, other things here that you may want to be aware of is that you should go back and justify your steps, make sure you've done them right. Subtraction property of equality and division property of equality. Okay, now the next thing they'll have you do is they say solve for x. So in this one, you can do it a couple ways. First way I'll show you is to just divide and get that a out of there. If you're saying distribute, that's okay too. I'll show you that on the next board. So that would wipe that out. You'd have x plus b equals c over a. Subtract b, and we get x equals c over a minus b. Now if you've done the same thing on each side of this equals, you know that it's correct. Here's the next thing that they say, is now get the answer to this by using your literal equation. See how a lines up with 2? You would say a equals 2, x lines up with x, b lines up with 7, and c lines up with negative 6. So we just come over here and we plug these in. C was negative 6. A is 2, and B is 7. Now follow your order of operations. Negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 minus 7 is negative 4. So your x value for that equation is negative 4 for this equation right here. You don't need to solve that equation because it's just like this literal equation was. Lined up perfectly. Okay, now another way to do that, I said a minute ago, if you distributed, that would be fine. You would take a times x plus a times b equals c. Now we isolate the x terms, so we would have ax equals, subtract ab from each side, c minus ab. Now we divide by a. X equals, you need to distribute c over a minus ab over a, and when you do that, hopefully you see that you would wipe that out. Now if you look back, that is the exact same answer that we had right here. X equals c over a minus b. Right there we have it. And right there we have it. As long as you follow your properties, like I've told you, math, there's oftentimes a number of ways to solve problems. Okay, so we're going to just practice this one more time. This is with an inequality. So we subtract the b from each side. ax is greater than c minus b. Divide by a on both sides. X is greater than c minus b. Distribute the a out. Now, the one thing that I would say is you need to make sure that you write that a has to be greater than 0. And it can't be equal to it. If it was equal to 0, that would be undefined. If it was less than 0, that would create a situation where you're dividing by a negative number. And then this sign would need to flip. Okay? So now we line up this literal equation, ax plus b is greater than c. We see that a is equal to 3, b is equal to 1, c is equal to negative 2. And we plug those in here. Negative 2 over 3 minus 1 over 3. Make that a plus and that a minus. Negative 2/3 plus a negative 1/3 would be negative 3/3. Or in other words, x is greater than negative 1. Okay, rewind the film if you need to watch these a few times. I don't pause in the teaching because I want you to go back and pause it yourself. Okay, so this one, we are trying to solve for x, I believe, because I see the x by itself there. So let's get the x terms to one side. Subtract bx from each side to move it over here, so we get ax minus bx is less than or equal to c. Now we can factor out this x. I do that to show you I'm taking it out, distributing it out of those. If I were to distribute it back, x times a would be ax, x times b would be bx. Okay? So, now I can see x times a minus b equals c. I want the x alone, so divide by a minus b. Divide by a minus b. X is less than or equal to c over a minus b. Now I write my equation up here. Ax is less than or equal to bx plus c. A is equal to 1. B is equal to negative 3. C is equal to 8. So now I plug in those values. 8 over 1 minus negative 3. 8 over 1 plus 3, because two negatives make a positive. 8 over 4. 2 is your answer. Okay? Please come to class with questions, specific questions. Now this is where we use this a lot. We rewrite formulas. Say we're wanting to figure out what the height of an object is, and we already know the volume, the length, and the width. We want to get this height alone. It's being multiplied by L and W. We just divide by LW. Those will cancel, and we get our height equals V volume divided by length and width. This is potential energy formula. They want us to solve for K. It's being multiplied by a half, and it's being times by, or multiplied by x squared. Just divide by those. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Divide by 1/2 x squared. Now this one, You don't leave it divided by a half because we know that we skip, flip, and multiply. So instead of writing the half down here, you just flip it. It's 2 over 1 x squared equals k. Okay, remember when you're multiplying by a fraction, you flip it over. Last thing, you are given funky perimeters of shapes that are other shapes put together. So the first thing I suggest you do is cut them to make common shapes. This is a square with 3 of the sides adding to the perimeter. We're asked to find the total perimeter. So we only have 3 of them, so we could write the square part is 3x. The triangle part, we only have 2 of those, so we could write 7/8 x plus 7/8 x, which we would need to figure out common denominator. So we just add 7 and 7, so it's 14/8 x. Now let's reduce that. 2 will go into both, so 7/4 x. Okay? Now for our total perimeter, we put those together. 3x plus 7/4 x. I would just switch this to having a common denominator. 3 is equal to 2 times 4 is 12, 12/4. So now add your numerators, 12 and 7, 19/4 x. It's fine with me if you don't reduce it to a mixed number. There you go. Have a good night.